Hello and welcome to the Kentucky Today podcast. I'm Lawrence Smith, the editor of Kentucky Today. First today, an inspirational story of obedience from a Kentucky teenager. Her name is Hailey Winders, and because she obeyed God's call to start a Bible study in her school, despite the obstacles, the Word of God is having an impact on students at Christian County High School. Here's my conversation with 16-year-old Hailey Winders. Let's talk about the Bible study. When did you get the idea for holding this Bible study in your school, and why did you want to do it?
I got it my 7th grade year. I wanted to do it because I felt like there was always something that was missing, and I just couldn't put my finger on it. And then once I figured out that it was God missing from school, then I was like, I want to have it and do it. And then it just happened my high school year.
Yeah, so you started in middle school, wanted to start in middle school.
Yeah.
Your school said no twice. Did the school explain why?
No, I think it was because like the board of education would have to approve it. And I guess that would take a while. So they were like, no. And then once I got to high school, it was like they'd have to open it up to all religions. So kind of shut us down for a while.
So you got to high school. What happened then?
Freshman year, I kind of just let it go and accepted that they would say no. And then sophomore year, I was like, I just can't. Like, there was that like tap on my shoulder. I was like, I just have to go for it one more time. And I did. And I was told no. And I was like, well, so I went home and prayed about it. And I was like, Lord, if this is what I'm meant to do, let it happen. And I went a few days later, and the principal had said yes.
So you prayed about it, and the school changed its mind and said yes.
Yes, sir.
But you had to find I guess, a teacher sponsor, right?
Yes, I had to find my own teacher sponsor and come up with like all the things for it. So,
And you worked all that out.
yeah,
So you finally held your first Bible study. How did it go? How many students showed up?
we had our first Bible study in like the middle of March this year. That was my sophomore year, and there was one person that had showed up. And I still taught the lesson like I would if it was a room full of people, because that one person might needed to hear what I had said, and she did. And then we had our second, our first meeting this year of this school year, and there was 13 students that showed up. And then our second one after that had like a little over 70.
So it continued to grow. Let's go back to the first student. How'd you feel about that? Were you discouraged when just one person showed up after all this effort?
I honestly wasn't discouraged. I knew God had a plan and I knew what he was doing. And I figured that I would trust him because he was working in it and he was there.
So this one person who showed up told somebody else and it kind of spread from there. Is that how it worked?
Yeah, and we had like throughout the sophomore year, we had like three, five, no more than five normally show up because it was before school. So we'd have to get here like an hour earlier. So that meant students would have to get up earlier and find a way here. So it was like small groups, but this year it's during school. So we have like bigger groups.
That's my next question. Kind of when did the interest really begin to grow?
Um, Probably this year. More
Did you,
people wanted to come.
why do you think that is? Did you take special steps? Did you advertise it? How did the word get out?
Well, I had made a presentation and I sent it to all the teachers in the school. And I was like, if you could share this with all the students and let them know about this. And then I gave them all sign up sheets. And I said, have them fill out the sign up sheets and I'll come back by and pick them up. And that's how we have like over 120 members now.
120 members.
Yes, sir.
And according to the story that I read that Mark Maynard wrote, you had people lining up in the hallway. Is that right?
Yes, I had walked in the classroom um, the day we had our meeting, and there was only a few people, and then I had left and came back, and there were students lined in the halls trying to get in, and I was like, "This is amazing. God is working."
Sounds like you need a bigger room.
We do, and we're gonna get one.
Oh, are you?
Yes, we're gonna have the media center.
Why have you been so persistent in this? You could have easily have given up.
I could have, but it's just something that I feel like God has like led me to do, and it's like that tap on my shoulder. And then ever since I was little, my grandma had always told me Jesus loved me, and I just want everyone to know that. And I feel like that's a big part of what we're missing.
So this is called, it was originally called Bible Before School. Is it still called that?
It's called Bible Before the Bell.
Bible Before the Bell.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So obviously you teach the Bible. How do you decide what to teach and what do you teach?
I teach like little devotionals, like topical for like teens. So we've had one over faith over fear and then fruit of the spirit. And we have one coming up over like friendship. And then towards Christmas, we'll have like the Christmas story.
So you prepare these lessons. How often do you meet?
We meet once or twice a month, depending on how many weeks are in a month.
Uh-huh. So you prepare these lessons beforehand.
I do.
Now, you're a member of West Union Baptist Church, right?
Yes.
They're in Hopkinsville. How has the church helped you through this entire process?
They have supported me in every way that they can. They've always pushed me to go further and not give up and not let the small things get in the way and just keep going and give it to God.
Now, what have you noticed among your fellow students as far as how they're responding to your Bible study? What are you seeing among the students?
I see like a change in them. Like they walk in and like some of them are down having bad days and they leave just in like a really good mood.
Has anybody expressed interest in coming to your church or going to a church? What's the
There
response been there?
there have been a few that become members of other churches since my church is like out in the woods in the middle of nowhere. Not many people want to travel that far, but I've had a few.
So, where does your persistence come from? Obviously, you've got it. Where did it come from?
Honestly, I'm not too sure. I woke up one day and I was like I wanted to do it and I've never just let go of it and I've always wanted to keep going and get it to where it wants to be at.
How you want to teach the Bible? You are teaching the Bible, obviously. How important has the Bible been in your life?
It's really important. I carry a Bible with me every day. I actually took my Bible out in first period and wrote down a devotional. And so like I always read my Bible. I read it every night, every morning during like breaks in class. So it's just always really been important to me.
What do you pray is the future of Bible Before the Bell? What do you are praying for as it goes forward, even into your senior year and beyond?
I pray that it just continues to grow and gain as much as it can. And even after I graduate, I want to still come in and do it and maybe even get it in all the schools in Christian County.
What has what is going through this experience? What has God taught you through this?
He's taught me a lot of things. One is like not to give up even when it gets hard because there's going to be barriers and you gotta face them and not let the small things get to you.
That's 16-year-old Hailey Winders from Hopkinsville, joined now by Kentucky Today managing editor Mark Maynard and content editor Chip Hutchison. Mark, you first told us about this story in Kentucky Today. Where did you hear about this remarkable young lady?
Well, it was actually through the AMS and the Christian County Baptist Association, and that was John Franklin. And they have a great association there. And John is always good about giving us tips for stories. And he texted me one day and said, "Hey, I think I might have a story for you. What do you think of this?" And he told me, and I was like, "Thank you for that story. I really appreciate it. I didn't hesitate." And he had already even cleared the way, for me to talk to her and all that. He'd talked to her mom and we got the phone number. And so, it was no surprise or anything that when I called, which was good, and I really appreciate John doing that. She talked in that interview, you asked her about where the persistence come from. And she said, she wasn't sure, but I spoke with her pastor, Buddy Weatherford at West Union, and he said that persistence comes from her mother. Her mother's name is Jennifer, and Jennifer drives a school bus, and she has three boys, she has three brothers, so four in the family, and they leave at like 5:30 in the morning, to get to start making the rounds. And as she said, that she kind of lives out in the woods there, I guess, in Christian County. But I just found her to be very mature. You don't know what you're getting with a 16-year-old teenager, really, when you're interviewing them. And I've interviewed a lot of them through my life with covering sports and things, and in Ashland. But she was really mature, I thought, and very well spoken. And you know what? She's you know, that we always say we look at what's wrong with today's youth. Well, Hailey is what's right with today's youth.
You're absolutely right. And Chip, she teaches us so much about being persistent and obeying the Lord, because she was turned down by her school twice when she was in middle school about doing this. She paused for a year, but the Lord would not let her alone. That teaches us something.
Well, it sure does. It teaches us, as you mentioned, persistence, but it also teaches us that God is faithful, that He did open up a door where she could do this. He obviously, the Holy Spirit impressed upon the heart of someone in that school system to give that a try. I'm reminded of one of my favorite quotes. Edward Everett Hale, in his book in 1902, said, "I'm only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something." And I think that's the mindset that Hailey has, that and she started with just one person. And if she ever needed any validation, that one person that attended needed to hear what the Lord had Hailey say that day. And it made a pretty important impact on that one who showed up. And now she's got, up to 120 who are showing up. They have to get up before school. And I just listened to a sermon recently about someone says we can get up to go hunting. We can get up to go to different events, to work. Sometimes it's difficult to get up early to go to church. In this case, early to go to a Bible study. But that shows you the impact that this Bible study has had. Reminds me of what's happened, and you referred to the younger generation. Look at what's happened in recent years on college campuses in this country. Began at Asbury here about 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, spread a major revival at Auburn University and other college campuses where the fire has been lit. Revival fires are burning, and we see it now in the high school. I think it's interesting. This started in Christian County High School, appropriate name.
Yeah, and of course, our Baptist campus ministry is working full time to share the gospel with students on campus, and it is bearing fruit. It is interesting, Mark, that she continued to do this when there was just one person there. She said she taught like she would otherwise. It shows you that sometimes we put too much emphasis on numbers instead of just being obedient.
Yeah.
That's right. We worry way too much about how many people are there. Oh, if there's not enough at church, what's wrong with the church or what's going on? You know, she just did what she was told and what the Lord had urged her to do. And she's going to give that lesson and just see where it goes. And obviously it helped that young lady that was in the room with her. And she said she came up to her afterward and said, thank you, Hailey. I really needed to hear that. And that's just one person that was in the room. She's just talking basically one-on-one with her. And I just think it's great. And I'm amazed at what this I call her a little girl, young girl, has been able to do. I mean, that's like a giant, really. She's a giant. And Lawrence, we have a story coming this weekend of another 16-year-old who took over the Mission Friends ministry at First Baptist Mayfield. So we got some young ones coming on, and I think that's really encouraging. As you all mentioned, the college ones, of course, but we're talking about 16-year-olds in high school who are taking on some pretty big commitments.
Well, I used her as an example. I teach a Sunday school class at our church. We call it community group, and we were in Colossians. And we talked about the fact that the Colossian church was not started by Paul, but by a man named Epaphras, who heard the gospel preached by Paul in Ephesus, took it to his hometown, was obedient to spread the gospel, and ultimately launch a church. That's about all we know about Epaphras, but it shows us that God works in ordinary people. He was not an apostle. He was an ordinary guy being obedient, and God will use that to bless others, bless his kingdom, even if it's just one person. So it's an interesting story of how being obedient will bear fruit. in your own personal life, but also in the life of others. Good story. Look forward to hearing that or seeing that one that's coming up this weekend about the other 16-year-old. It's very encouraging about what's going on in our Kentucky Baptist young people. All right. Moving on to a big announcement from Southern Seminary, a transition in leadership. Herschel York, who's dean of the School of Theology, is retiring from that role at the end of next August, or the beginning of next August, in July. He's going to remain a preaching professor, but he's retiring from the dean of the School of Theology, and he's going to be replaced or succeeded by Andrew Walker, who is now associate dean and professor of Christian ethics and public theology. Chip, full disclosure, Herschel's your brother-in-law, but yes, give us your thoughts on him making this transition.
Well, it does not surprise me. I don't think I know he loves to teach preaching. He loves that interaction with students. So that's why he wants to remain on the Southern faculty, and that's his passion. I don't think he likes the administrative work as much, and he has told me he has been ready to retire from the dean position, but certainly not from teaching. And that's his passion. He does a great job with it. His passion is preaching and then to teach young men how to be pastors and how to preach. And so I'm excited for him. When I saw the announcement from Southern, I thought, I have not heard about this. So I called him and said, thanks a lot, buddy, for letting me get scooped by Southern Seminary press release. And he said, wait a minute, I'm not retiring. I'm not retiring. He wants to make that very clear that he is going to stay in that role of teaching men called a pastor to preach the most effective way.
Yeah, I think the trustees were entitled to hear that before even you heard it. So that was the case there. Mark, as you know, York has been influential beyond Southern Seminary. He served as the president of the KBC for a while, in a critical time for a year, and the former pastor of Buck Run Baptist Church in Frankfort, which has become very influential in Frankfort.
Yes, tremendous pastor, tremendous leader, Christian leader in this state. And really in this country, just to be honest. I mean, he can go beyond Kentucky's walls for sure. He preaches all over the place, and just a great person. You know, he is. I've had the pleasure of interviewing him half dozen times or so, and man, he's always a joy. You know, he's never. Well, he is over my head for sure, but he doesn't. You wouldn't know it. You know, he's just so well spoken and down to earth, and we laugh and carry on when we talk to each other. And he's just a fine person, and I'm glad he's still teaching. You know, because he does that so well, and he's so good at that. And we need that in our seminaries. We need that. Southern needs that. So that gives him a little break to get away from the dean thing. And Andrew Walker, wow, he's a powerhouse. I think he's very involved in all things Baptist and in all things Southern Baptist. And I mean, just what a tremendous person to put in that position. You know, it's not you feel like they can go to some more strength, really. You know, with that.
Yeah, Andrew Walker, for lack of a better term, is a rising star in the SBC.
Yes.
He chaired the resolutions committee last year for the SBC, did a great job, and he's part of an increasingly popular podcast of his own called The Bully Pulpit, and years ago worked for the KBC as a lobbyist. So we know Andrew quite well. He'll do a great job in that new role when it's time for him to take it next August. All right, we're going to move on to a different topic as we finish kind of the transition thing, but not quite. We're doing another transition. Chip, Jamie Reynolds, well known among Kentucky Baptists, taking a new position, serving SBC bivocational pastors.
Yes, what a great choice to be the executive director of that entity that's in Southern Baptist life. So it's important to understand of the approximately 47% of Southern Baptist Convention pastors serve bivocationally. They have they're either retired and then take a church, or they have a full-time job, and that's the majority of them. And there are roughly 28,000 of those in the United States serving bivocationally. So their plates are full with work, with also pastoring a church. And Jamie's had great experience for right now about 12 years in the Three Forks Association in Eastern Kentucky. And those are primarily bivocational pastors in that area. I think his heart is evident. Since 2008, he has taught pastor workshops, how to train men called to be pastors, but who have jobs. And he's trained about 130 men to fill the pulpits, to be either pastors, interim pastors, or supply preachers in Eastern Kentucky. That position with this bivocational and small church network, it's been open for about 15 months. Jamie is the ideal candidate. Clear Creek Baptist Bible College has offered office space, which again is a real plus too, because they have a bivocational degree program there at Clear Creek. And Jamie serves as a trustee for Clear Creek Baptist Bible College. So what a great fit. I'm excited for Jamie. He's done such a phenomenal job there in that association. We're privileged at my church, West Broadway Baptist here in Louisville. Jamie and Rachel, their daughter, Heather Carey, is a member there. So there are a lot of tentacles to this story that have impacted me and our church.
Yeah, he's been at Three Forks for more than a decade now. And Mark, as you know, he's also very heavily involved in the disaster relief effort.
Yeah, he's all in about that disaster relief. He works with them. Ron Crow has counted on him to be in some leadership roles in disaster relief as well. I remember, I think it was in the spring in London, he just kind of had left Jamie kind of in charge of things, for a while down there. And Jamie's a great organizer, and Jamie has such great respect. Everybody respects Jamie. And he works well with disaster relief. He's very fond of disaster relief and calls it the best thing that Southern Baptists do.
Well, he's among the best among Southern Baptists. So, God's blessing to him in this new role that he's taking on, serving bivocational pastors across the country. All right, we've come to the end of Cooperative Program Month, CP Month, and our fourth and final video of Cooperative Program Month features a Kentucky couple, Mike and Sarah Embry from Shelbyville, who are serving as missionaries in Kenya.
Hello, Kentucky Baptists. Sarah and I are actually from Shelbyville, Kentucky, and we would like to thank you all for giving to Lottie Moon in the cooperative program. Because of your all's generous donations, you allow us to be here on the field and not going back home to raise funds.
And because of your support, we're now at the Sin Relief Family Care Center, and we are equipping both U.S. and Kenyan churches to learn more about family-based care. We're helping children get from institutions back to safe and loving homes. And through your support, we're able to share this message around the world about getting back to God's design for families.
That's Mike and Sarah Embry, IMB missionaries from Shelbyville, who are serving in Kenya. And something they mentioned, Chip, is very important. The cooperative program means that these missionaries do not have to worry about coming back home to raise money. They can focus on the mission field.
Yes, that is so crucial to know that you don't have to worry, am I going to have to leave the mission field in a year or two because of no funds? It takes that pressure off, no fundraising, so they can be fully committed to beginning programs, to planting churches in those areas. And they go to areas that, many of the areas that we cannot go to, that where there is persecution, and the fact that to know that they're supported, that they have health care in these countries is so crucial and such a blessing. So when people give to the cooperative program, they need to understand we might not be able to go somewhere, but we're enabling someone else to go and share the good news of Jesus Christ.
Well, those videos are available at Kentucky Today on our website, but also at kybaptist.org under our resources tab. You can see all 4 of the Cooperative Month videos. We urge you to share them with on social media, and also to play them in your church so people get some idea of the impact of the cooperative program. Well, Mark, you did a story written by one of our new writers. You put a story up by one of our new writers, Jeffrey Robinson. He reported on a pastor seeing a new surge of growth in a church that he is now pastoring, but that was founded originally by his grandfather in Frankfort.
That's right. Faith Baptist Church in Frankfort. He came March of 2023, and they were running about 80 people at the time, and it is now busting at the seams. They run about 280, and the building holds maybe 290, 300. So they're already looking at what are we going to do? Let's go 2 services. It's just been tremendous growth. And Lawrence, what I liked about him, several things. One is the family tie there. Obviously, that his grandparents started the church, planted that church there, but also he did start some programs there and did some things like that, but he reminds his congregation, he says regularly, that it's not because of the programs. It's not, it's none of this stuff. It's you guys praying. It's all of us praying, getting on our knees. That's why this church is growing. The word is being preached. That's why this church is growing. He takes no credit for it, and he wants them to take no credit for it. It's not the Lord is growing that church. And he's done a great job there, and he's excited, and they're excited. That church is so excited about all that's happening since he's been there.
Seems like we have a theme this week of God blessing those who are in obedience to Him. From Hailey Winders now to the pastor that Jeff wrote about, that's seeing growth in his church because he was obedient to the call that God gave him.
That's right. And Josh Rayburn's his name. He's been at other church. He's been in another church for several years. He was at this same church, but the call was so strong to go to Faith Baptist that
he didn't want to leave, did he?
Right. Yeah, he wanted to stay where he was, and sometimes that happens, with people. And God says, "No, I need you over here." So obviously, that's been a blessing to them and him.
Well, we're going to end on this. The KBC Resolutions Committee. We have an annual meeting coming up here in November. The committee approved 6 resolutions to be forwarded to the messengers for a vote during our annual meeting in November. And I'm going to briefly tell you what they are, and then just a brief description of what they're trying to do with these resolutions. One's on the goodness of children and the call to promote family formation that addresses the declining birth rate in our society. Another one is on the conscience rights of healthcare workers, affirms the right of healthcare professionals to abstain from taking part in procedures and in speech that would violate their Christian convictions. That's another of the resolutions. On the banning of pornography, calls for governments to take action to ban pornography and urges churches to disciple and care for those ensnared by pornography. On repealing the sales and use tax impacting Kentucky churches. This one calls on the Kentucky General Assembly meeting next year to pass legislation eliminating the tax burden or the burden on churches to collect the sales and use tax. Many churches don't know that they have to do that in some circumstances. This proposal would free churches from having to do that. So we're considering a resolution asking the General Assembly to do that. On the value of cooperation, reaffirms the commitment of the KBC churches to biblical cooperation. And finally, our traditional resolution on appreciation to the host church and city. That, in this case, is First Baptist Cold Spring, the city of Cold Spring, and Campbell County for holding the 2025 annual meeting. As I said, messengers, of course, will vote on these resolutions at the KBC annual meeting on November 3rd. You can see the story summarizing all those resolutions with a link to the complete text of each one at KentuckyToday.com. In fact, you can read all our stories, including the one about Hailey, which is very, very popular. All the stories we talked about today at KentuckyToday.com on our website. And while you're there, sign up for our daily email morning briefing. And while you're there, also take a look at kybaptist.org for information about the Kentucky Baptist Convention and the cooperative program that makes this podcast possible. That's it for now. Lord willing, we'll see you next time on the Kentucky Today podcast.